Hey folks, so I'm just going to talk you through how to set up a parameter in Fmod, and it's going to be the footstep sound, which is quite important, and I'm just going to keep it fairly simple. Just going to go through the process of setting up the Fmod project. And by the way, the Fmod project that I'm using here, it's going to be the Fmod project that I've shared on the Blackboard site. So if you go into Blackboard, you can see that I've shared a whole Fmod project. That's just to get us all on the same page, so we've got some basic project going there, so that we can be looking at the same project as we add in the parameter in Fmod. Of course, I do want you to kind of develop and have your own Fmod project going, but yeah, this is on Blackboard. So I want to show you how I got these parameters added in. So they might not be there. So to add a parameter, you have to click on these tabs here and add parameter sheet. And you're going to want to go browse new parameter. And it's going to appear like this. And we're going to have one called speed, which is 0 to 1. It's going to be the standard continuous, user continuous. And we're going to have another one called surface. That's going to be a user label type. And the reason for this is the game code is going to pass us the actual surface names. And let me just explain a bit about this, because you may have noticed before I had the actual names of the materials coming from Unity, but there's so many surface materials in Unity that it becomes quite complex. So I've actually simplified this with the game code. So the code that we're going to be adding to the player controller, as is described in the Fmod Unity guide, this code now contains simplifications, so that excuse me, really bad today. So that all we need to do is add in these simple words here, and nothing crazy. So that's exactly how you do that, and then you get a surface parameter sheet which has your surfaces here. So I'm clicking and dragging. That, by the way, is the same as the game actually changing the surface. That's just how we test it in Fmod. We just audition by clicking and dragging along the ruler there. And this is the speed of Ellen. So we can again click and drag here to change the parameter, and spacebar to preview the actual sound. But yeah, this is just simulating Unity. We can, of course, play it in Unity, and we can connect via live update. And that stays connected, which is really handy. So before I just do a tiny bit of demonstration on how to tweak the parameter in Fmod, just want to show you how I've gone about getting the actual material names from Unity. And this is just a piece of extra information, just so you know how this works, because I think it's important. In the Unity console, you can see on the bottom left there's a console window. I'm just attaching the cursor. It's saying what the material surface is. So this is called Cliff Edge 03 mat, etc., etc. There's a load of different materials, including the dropship. And there's even a rocky ledge. See that? Whoops, rock ledge down there. And we're getting the speed, so we know the speed from Unity. It's sending a speed of 0 or 1. It's funny that it sends a speed of 0, which is walking, and 1 is running. But yeah, that's how it's going. And what I'm doing with the code, let me just get the code on the screen. This is the code that I've put in the document, and I've got it in the game here. In fact, it might be a bit less confusing if I just show you on the document. Again, we don't really need to know this code, but I just want to very, very briefly show you a couple of things that are interesting about it. Of course, we have the instruction to play the Fmod sound using Fmod, and it's updating the event. Don't need to worry about that. And this is the bit that I've done today that I think is really simplifying the process of you adding in the parameters in Fmod, because it's going to scan, I've told it to scan all the material names for all the words, all the keywords that are in the Unity materials. And it's just spitting out these very simple grass, mud, stone, wood, etc. water. I don't know if there's actually water or metal, but I just did that just in case. I wasn't sure. There is metal in the dropship, but you might not need to do that depending on what you're going to be showing off in your game. So this code effectively just gives us this really nice, simple mud, grass, water, stone, wood, metal, even though in the game it's much more complex. That's how I've done that, and I just think it's important for you, or it's useful for you to know how that's been achieved. And then at the end, I've got this instruction here to set the parameter, and then it's going to show the debug on the console. And that's how I actually found out what the names for the materials were, because in Unity, this console here shows us. So I just basically use these keywords to get the parameters that we need into Fmod. So that's quite cool. And to get those material names readable, I had to enable the original audio listener on the camera brain, because otherwise the console just gets spammed with a lot of messages about the listener not being right. So yeah, that's what got the names of all the materials in the game. So I just wanted to show you that really quickly before I go ahead and actually do the parameter stuff in Fmod. So yeah, I've shown you how to add parameter sheets. You do this, and just press new parameter, and then you get this pop-up, which is the same as when you add it and you press edit. You get this pop-up, and this is what you're going to need to add in. For the surface parameter, it needs to be labeled surface, user labeled, surface, mud, grass, water, stone, wood, metal. Cool. And the speed one, as I've shown, is user continuous, name speed 0 to 1. Because as I explained in the class, the code actually, where is it? It actually says that somewhere it says that 0 means walking and 1 means running. Yeah, whoops, never mind. Anyway, can't find it there. So how do I go about actually putting in the footsteps? Before, we just have the footstep multi-instrument, which is what you get when you drag a load of individual footstep files in. These are prepped in Reaper, by the way, and you can see the Reaper video on how to do that. But we have this on the timeline. And we have our timeline test footstep debug voice.
Footstep. Footstep.
Excuse me, I apologize, I'm very ill today.
Footstep. Footstep.
So how do we know that this is actually working? Well, there's a couple of ways we can find out. One way is if we use the Fmod profiler, which I've covered before, but let me just show you the process again. The game needs to be actually running, and Fmod in the profiler window, you just click. You can delete these. These are old things I've just been testing with, and we can just press record when the game is running, and then let's make some footsteps. So if I just go back to the profiler and press stop, I can scroll down and I can use my Alt mouse wheel modifier to zoom out, because it kind of zooms in a lot by default. These are the footsteps, and it is working because we can see there is a little yellow dot on these parameters. If I click an instance of the footstep event, which you can see is confirmed over here, lm_footstep, we can see the footstep values are there, and they have different speeds, so those parameters are changing. Let me just walk around a bit more. And as I explained earlier, the material names are all over the place, but I'm forcing them to very simple names. So the cliff edge one is actually going to make a grass sound. And if we go to the rock ledge material, I just made that make a grass sound as well, because that's the closest thing. And also, I've gone so far as to kind of like make sure that even stuff like the pedestal should make a stone sound. Yeah, so Now stone, you might just use the dirt sound for stone, because it's not like stone has a very distinct, well, I don't really have great sounds in my library for stone, but that's a good point actually. Why don't we just use the sounds that are in there, which are the dirt ones. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to, whoops, select stone and paste them there. So now they'll trigger only when Ellen is on stone. And we must delete them from the timeline and get rid of the test voice from the timeline. So we're going to just populate the surface parameter page in Fmod. And I'm also going to, I've got some prepared grass run sounds. Actually, what would be good to do as well, because we're eventually going to have speed on the go as well. We can have a different track for walk and run. And this is where things get really kind of satisfying, in my opinion, because in the game, Ellen mostly runs, so it doesn't really matter. But I just want to show you that we want to try and reflect the different speeds with different sounds. Or we can just use one sound and do a little pitch shift. So what I'm going to do is on the multi-instruments in the walk track, I'm going to add the condition. The speed is O is 0 for these. Add condition, the speed is 0. So the walk events, sorry, the walk instruments in the footstep event are only going to trigger when the speed is 0, which is actually walk. And on the run track, I'm going to make sure that I've got a speed 1 condition here. So that's only going to trigger when the speed is running. So let's just also get our test voice, debug voices in here. And these are also from the Blackboard link. I have a folder called like test MP3s. These are just voices saying the name of the surface, and I'm going to want to put those on the debug track so I can control those separately. So let me just go ahead and drag in all of those debug voices: wood, stone, water. I'm not sure if we have water, but let's just see anyway. Grass and mud. Now, back to the game. Sometimes when we add sounds in like that, we actually have to go back to Fmod and press F7 to build. Excuse me, lots of coughing today. Okay, so play again. Let's see what happens. We should get our test voices, I would imagine. Aha, of course. Silly me. So I've got my material names. I've sorted that in the code. You don't need to worry about that anyway, but I'm going to make sure that my Fmod Studio listener on the camera brain is reactivated. Otherwise, I'm not going to hear the Fmod sounds. So I'm glad I forgot about that, because it might help you remember it as well. And now,
ambient loop.
Yeah,
And ambient
I can hear the test sounds from last week.
ambient loop. Mud, 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 mud.
Okay.
Mud, 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 mud. Grass, stone, stone,
Okay.
stone, 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 stone. Grass, mud, grass, mud, 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 grass, 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 mud, mud, stone, 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 stone.
So I'm going to come back to that later. Out of interest, that one should actually be triggering grass. So if I just make sure that I have the name of that material, I'm gonna force it to grass in the code, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, if you have any issues with anything not working as it should, The test voices are really handy. Ah. Okay, so that's, oops. That's called ridge. So I'm going to make sure in the code that ridge triggers grass. That's just a note for myself for later. Okay. So yeah, that aside, we should be able to walk around and we should get all of our test sounds coming through. And that's really important because that confirms that we have everything working. Let's go to the ledge.
Mud, stone, mud, land, stone, grass.
All right, so the reason that we actually start hearing grass when we walk on the grass is because we have the grass parameter string populated with grass samples. So the one that we're hearing there is probably the run one because she is running. Let's see the speed. Well, we can't see that anymore from Unity since we turned back on the listener. But if I take a quick profile, I just click into a new space and record and then walk a bit.
Grass.
Yeah, Ellen runs basically straight away, so you can see that it's gone. The speed is 1 and it's grass. So she kind of runs as a default.
Grass. Land, jump, pedestal, weapon. Stone, land. Wood, water, grass, water. Wood, jump, wood, land. Grass, land, jump, stone, land, wood.
Okay, so I'm not sure where the water came from, but yeah, I've actually made sure the boxes,
wood, land,
and the pedestal,
stone,
are also giving the right material names, just in case you jump on them in the game. So that's quite cool. And that's basically it for the footstep parameter. It's just a case of making sure that you've got the sounds in there for the parameter string that's being triggered at the speed that's being triggered for. And for stone, it's actually not going to make a stone sound unless, because I have it set to 0, unless it's actually 0, which is walking. So what I'm going to do is just turn off the debug voice. And then now that I know that it works, I'm going to play again. Oh, it's still playing.
Land, jump, land, land.
And we're actually not getting the mud, which is really important. So, so you're going to want to have a mud sound in there. And let me just add in another audio track. What you could do is add in another sound of water. So mud might just be grass plus water, let's say. So now if I move around,
Attack.
we're going to get the standard grass sound. But if I was to put in another sample of water splashing here, it would make a water sound. Now I don't think I have one ready this moment as I'm recording the video. But that's one way to deal with the mud, is to just add in an extra layer, and if you don't add a condition to it, it will play both when the character is walking and running. In fact, just for now, to keep things simple, if I remove the condition, the sound that you're hearing is actually the same between walking and running, because like I say, Ellen doesn't really walk much. And if we wanted to make it so that this speed parameter maybe changes maybe it makes it louder. Let me just get rid of this and I'll just keep it kind of simple for now. Let's just say this is the general footstep sound. And I'm on the speed parameter now. If I right click on the fader, I can add automation. And remember, this is a parameter sheet now, so is this, not a timeline. So this ruler indicates the parameter, not the actual timeline. So if you press space on a parameter sheet and you change here, you're just auditioning a different parameter value. So if let's say if I bump that up there, and on this end I bump it down, it means that her walking footstep gets louder as the speed increases. So that's one way of doing it. Another thing that might increase, if you're trying to get by with just using the same set of sounds for both walking and running, another thing that might increase would be the actual pitch of the sound. So again, if I click on the grass, and I can right click on the pitch here and say add automation. And if I go back to the speed view, or I can do it down here, but it's easier to do it here, you can actually change the pitch so that the pitch also increases when her speed increases. Again, the Alt mouse wheel helps you zoom in and out because it's quite easy to lose those points. So Alt mouse wheel. So now it's going to be kind of low pitch when she's slow. Medium, well, there's no medium speed. High speed. It's a bit too low. The pitch, it's easy to overdo it. Like maybe 3 or 4 semitones plus or minus is probably a good range. Walking is actually quite hard, but there is a difference now. You can hear that when the walk turns into the run, the volume changes and it kind of becomes higher in pitch. Yeah, so that's it. Just that nice bit of detail. I'm going to update the code on the document to make sure that it makes the grass sound on these ridge areas. And yeah, that's all working nicely. Just need to actually keep on just swapping out the test sounds here with the actual real sounds, and these all come from files that I've shared with you on Blackboard. If you look in the sound effects folder, I've actually shared a load of sounds from my library, and you can cut them up and export them like this so that you get like 10 or so different files, so that, yeah, it's randomly just choosing one. Well, it's set to shuffle mode. You can put it on randomize and it'll play a randomly chosen sample. And I always leave the test MP3s there because it might be that later on I want to come back and just make sure that everything's working okay if something is wrong.
Mud, 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 mud.
Let me just bring that down.
Attack.
I'm just going to really quickly get to the bit where it's the stone floor.
Land.
Because all that should work properly as well.
Jump, land, jump, land,
If I can
land.
see where I'm going. So if you notice that you're getting the wrong
Jump, land,
footstep
jump,
string
land, jump,
in your profiler,
jump,
or anything
land.
is not as you think it should be, let me know, because it could be the code, but it should be okay, hopefully.
4 hearts
Oops.
left.
You can hear that I've got my heart parameter hooked in as well.
3 hearts left.
Yeah, that's covered in the Fmod Unity guide,
Jump,
and I would encourage you to do that. It's basically the same as doing the footsteps,
2
but
hearts left.
oh, I'm getting attacked as I show you the document. Whoops,
Jump.
no.
Land. Jump, land. Jump, land. Jump, land.
Yeah, I should be getting stone values for all of the stone. There's a water one as well that's triggering when it shouldn't, so I'm going to sort that out as well
Stone.
with the code.
Land. Stone. 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 Land. Stone. 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 Stone.
So yeah, the actual health parameter is coming through there as well. But focus on the footstep one first, because the process is really the same, and the health one is really something that we'll come to later. We'll probably add in a snapshot so that when the health is low, we get like a nice kind of weird sound. But the health parameter is quite easy to add in. I think the footstep one is probably slightly more involved. But the only difference with the health one is the code actually exposes a fmod event window where you actually drag the fmod event in from your fmod view in Unity, which I'll just remind you where that is. It's over here. So I would drag in an event called health into, I think it's the health UI script. You can see I've probably done it already. Or I think it might be the health prefab. Health canvas. It is the health canvas, so I'll make sure that's in the document as well. You can see there, that's where the health UI script that we edit, that actually appears in the health canvas. So yeah, I hope you find that useful. Like I say, it's really just a case of playing with fmod a bit on the parameter sheets and making sure that the result is sounding good in the game. And like I say, you can use one sound and you can kind of automate the volume and the pitch, or you could use a different sound sample for running and walking and add those parameter conditions. It's up to you. As long as it sounds good, that's the main thing. And yeah, hope you found that useful. I'll leave it there. Email me if you've got any questions.